Hello, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Real Football Talk. I'm your host, Hassan. Today, I have with me Adil and Sadiku. We'll be discussing the Liverpool versus Everton game, where Everton won for the first time in 23 years. First question I wanted to ask was, Adil, what did you make of the way Everton kind of lined up and the first half, really?
Yeah, obviously the first surprise was the formation that they went to three, 3-5-2 or 3-5-1-1. And it was the way they played it that surprised me the most, which is because Ancelotti is well known for balance and prioritizing balance in his formation, his setup is a big part of his game is always maintaining the balance between the defending and the attacking phases of the game. It was quite surprising how attacking the wingbacks were, and I thought again that caught Liverpool by surprise, and it kind of nullified them in the first half because it didn't allow the fullbacks to push on, which is normally one of their main source of assists and threats to their attacking game. So definitely the setup of Ancelotti was really good. Um, and the way they played it wasn't in the traditional 3-5-2 or 3-5-1-1 way. It was, Digne and Coleman were very high up. And I think alluded in one of the previous podcasts about how Tuchel's system seems to be already catching on with Brighton and other teams following suit. And I think Everton played it a lot more closer, not entirely as aggressive as, but the way in which we're seeing the wing backs being used has definitely changed since Tuchel has used it in such an attacking way. Teams are a lot more adventurous with their wing backs pushing so high up and being really a part of the attacking phase of the game, and not as much on the defensive phase of the game.
Sadiku, on that, really, when in the third minute, when Richarlison really scored, Liverpool had three opportunities to clear the ball. What did you make of that whole situation and the poor start they had?
I think firstly that situation, Kabak, he headed the ball back to Ducouré. That's probably inexperience. He's a young guy, not used to the Premier League, the pressure.
But that's
Arnold was on his
heading away. That's basic. Surely you should.
that is, I know Arnold was on his right. Arnold was on his right, clear header, clear pass. He headed the ball back to Ducouré. Again, headed the ball back to Ducouré. The ball fell at Rodriguez's feet. Henderson, not a natural defender. Richarlison was in between four defenders, and Rodriguez picked out a pass. And there was a goal. Henderson should have been away. I know Kabak was following, but that's what happens when you play a natural midfielder in defence. He's not always going to be away with the way the ball was going, but ultimately it was Kabak's fault. He should have headed the ball away. He should have put more strength in the header. He was asking for trouble. First time Decore, second time Decore, and then we were punished. As a Liverpool fan, seeing goals like this go in, I'm sure it's affecting a lot of Liverpool's fans' mental health. Not used to losing like this. It's not nice.
Only been 2 years you've been winning, but okay. Adil, I mean, Liverpool kind of like half and puffed really the whole of first half. Didn't really create enough chances. What is the main reason? Because I mean, is it the system or like you alluded to, kind of Everton kind of blocking each of the options that they had or the way they played in terms of their wing backs kind of pushing on to put the crosses in, and because of the way the wing back system Everton played, it stopped them from doing that or having that opportunity to do it.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to the previous question, really, I think that first goal conceded actually is a actually it tells you the whole of Liverpool's problems off the ball this season, because when that throw-in came in for Richarlison's goal, Thiago tries a ridiculous cushion pass in the midfield. So again, you question his understanding of the Premier League. I mean, even in the German league, that there is no way that a header in that compact zone is going anywhere, especially when you float it up in the air. So Thiago was a problem there. Gini Wijnaldum playing in the CDM position, ball watching was a problem because he wasn't in the CDM position. I mean, how do you let Rodriguez have the whole of the 10 position free to himself? You've got one job to mark him at the game. We know they've said in previous shows about the first impressions of Kabak and even Henderson at centre back, is both of them are ball watchers. Kabak seems to do this quite a bit, where he keeps coming across to cover Henderson a lot and leaves a massive gap between himself and Trent. And Trent, obviously, positionally at the moment, is so focused on attack, he's never really tucking in. So when you look at that goal, it's actually the personnel involved for the concede of that goal are the same personnel that are literally at fault for all of Liverpool's goals recently. Trent isn't tucking in, so there's no awareness that Richarlison has gone blindside of Kabak. Kabak is moving across too much. Henderson is ball watching. Wijnaldum is in his position. And Thiago's the one who's losing the ball, trying to do something that you just, in that congested zone, that zone doesn't make sense. So, yeah, just to kind of bring that back, that says a lot of the problem. That one first goal was the trend for the whole season since Liverpool have started to lose their form. Is the same culprits doing the same type of mistakes, and it's costing Liverpool a lot now every game at the moment. In terms of coming back to your question about why Liverpool struggled, I think Liverpool really struggled with the physicality of Everton in that game. Everton were quite physical. I mean, and they were robust. They're going in, and the athleticism of the team. I mean, they had more energy and more athletic players all over the pitch. Height, strength, physically, they're just a bigger team, and they made that work to their advantage. On top of that, I don't think anyone was expecting an Ancelotti team to come there with an attacking, game plan. After that goal, Digne crossed, Coleman had a chance. It just highlights how high up Digne and Coleman were playing. They're really pushing up high at points. Because Richarlison gets involved in the attack, they were actually the furthest players on the pitch, especially Digne. A lot of the times he was the furthest player up the pitch. So teams can play 3-5-2, but they don't normally play it that aggressively and that attacking. But now we're starting to see that, and I think Liverpool didn't have a game plan to get away from that, to get the ball to their danger men.
I think on that point, really, all right, fair enough. I mean, obviously Everton pushed the wing backs really forward and stuff. Doesn't that kind of play into Liverpool's hand with the three fast players that they have on the break and on the counter? So Mane would be, it'll be pretty much 3-on-3. So doesn't that kind of play into the Liverpool strength? So I'm wondering why they couldn't really exploit that a bit more.
Well, the thing was they couldn't get the ball into them, quality balls into them, because of the athleticism of the players. Godfrey was very good against Salah. I mean, man for man, the Everton defenders were actually better at winning the individual duels, but Liverpool couldn't get enough momentum and quick possession, transition to get the ball into those front three. When they did, it was slow possession, because of the press was so good. So they couldn't just get it into Salah straight away. And a few times Salah was tracking Digne back. So they were in their normal positions because they're tracking the runs of the wing back as well. Mane didn't as much, but Salah a few times was following Digne's attacks. So that's taking them out of their normal position. So I think, those are the
losing Henderson early on caused a problem as well. In terms of that, like he's the one that could maybe pick up the ball and play that pass, but Phillips and Orbach, there's no way they're going to play a pass to Mane and Salah.
Yeah, I think after the goal, you can see Henderson tries playing with more risk, and Wijnaldum is sitting in a bit more, and it made a difference because that was when suddenly Liverpool looked like getting a bit of a foothold in the game, but he got injured. Soon after, a few minutes after playing with a bit more, he got injured. Definitely, Liverpool just ain't functioning well at the moment. And I said we touched on it previously. They're a team where a lot of their attacking basis depends on how well they do at recycling the ball. Because the counter pressing is so good, they normally win the ball back when the opposition are unbalanced or aren't in a good position. So there's gaps to straight away thread that ball into the attacking players. But now that counter pressing isn't working because the players aren't good enough at winning the ball back. And the big example of that was from kickoff. From the first kick of the game, they went and targeted Kabak, and he failed miserably. He gave away a corner. And that straight away showed you this Liverpool current defenders, especially cannot deal with the long ball. And they did it repeatedly. And Richarlison just stayed on the blind side of Kabak the whole game. And they're winning, they're getting chances. They're always getting through a ball. The ball was always bouncing. You know, Alisson had to be alert off his line always to collect that ball because he knew his centre-backs aren't going to get their head on the ball.
I mean, starting with second half, the penalty. What do you make of the penalty, really? And
that wasn't a penalty. Hassan, that was not a penalty. And you know what? Because it maybe thought it was a bad game, we just let it go. But if that game was 0-0, and he went down, we would have fought for that. There's no way we would allow that to be a penalty. But maybe just thought, it's 1-0, 2-0 doesn't make a difference. But there's no way that was a penalty. Calvert-Lewin took the shot, and then he saw Arnold was on the floor. He ran into him, and then he fell over. I don't know. I don't know why we have VAR. What
surprises me, the referee kind of went over to the screen, looked at it, and then still went with his decision, even though advice from the VAR was that.
Have a look at it. But I think what it is it's very soft penalty, but it's because the problem is Alisson doesn't hold on to that shot, which is fair enough. It's a good shot, so maybe it's too powerful to hold. But because it's coming out and back into the path of Calvert-Lewin run, momentum after the shot, it's a tap-in. He's got an open goal. So I think that is the reason why the referee, because suddenly Everton have no advantage from that clash. So I agree it's very soft, but I think the reason why it got given more was the fact that the rebound was going straight to Calvert-Lewin.
So do you think it's a penalty or not?
No, I don't agree with that. I mean, the tackle was so late that it missed everything. It didn't block a goal, but it was so late. It fouled, ended up accidentally fouling Calvert-Lewin in the second phase. That's how late that tackle was.
Exactly. Even Phillips, he was trying to catch up with Calvert-Lewin. Yeah.
I think Trent should be thankful to Calvert-Lewin. If Calvert-Lewin didn't crash into him, he might have slid across off the pitch.
I mean, it kind of tells you about Trent's defending ability, really. But
it was actually quite impressive in the sense that I was surprised he even saw that run and he tracked it. It's more than what he's been doing recently. I mean, we've seen the last game, similar run from Barnes, clean 2-goal.
A bit too late, but yeah. I mean, with regards to Liverpool, Sadiku, what do you think they need to kind of work on, and where do you think they for them to kind of start winning again? What do they need to change?
Firstly, I don't understand why they bought Davies or got him on loan, whatever, and then they don't play him. Like what? Like what's wrong? Like Trust got a play. I mean, sorry, Klopp got a player in, and then he can't even trust him to bring him on. Instead, he chooses Phillips. So I don't see like what's the point of getting him in? And another thing is, why doesn't he just take the risk and play Oback and Phillips at the back? Because they didn't do that bad, and then play Henderson in the middle. Maybe that would have an impact. If he keeps putting Henderson in a position where he's uncomfortable, someone who's trying to get into the Euros for England, he doesn't want to be chosen as a centre back. You know, he needs to trust it. Klopp was our best midfielder last. Sorry, Henderson was our best midfielder last year, and he's playing out of position. And like Adil made it clear, Ronaldo was clearly uncomfortable in that CDM position. So I think that that's probably a difference maker where maybe we should just play Phillips and Oback at the back, or Davies and Oback, or maybe Phillips and Davies and leave Henderson as a CDM. Because apart from that, what early on that mistake from Oback, and then we lost to the penalty. So it just shows that Oback and Phillips as a pair, they weren't doing that bad.
I think a big point there is, and this is the thing you can see in the reaction of the players. I mean, there's clear. I mean, losing does that. There's clearly some issues there because the moment Wijnaldum was allowed to be slightly free, he played with energy. His son was bombing forward, making things happen, taking shots, and the way he's playing so passive and disinterested in the CDM position shows that. And the moment Thiago kind of covered him and let Wijnaldum free in the last 15, 20 minutes, his energy was quite noticeable. So clearly, players are playing out of position and they're not happy in those positions. You can tell them it doesn't feel like they're giving their all because and we've spoken about it repeatedly. Klopp is, all the best managers, they're stubborn as well. And he's stubborn to try and make this Thiago work within the system. He's stubborn to keep Firmino on and make it work. Even Mane has been poor. Even this game is non-existent. I mean, every time the ball comes, his first touch is gets stuck underneath his feet and then he loses it. I can't, the amount of games I've seen that repeatedly, consecutively, it's not getting addressed. So, yeah, I mean, you have to, and then the substitutions are always the same substitutions. Shaqiri on for Jones. And the last few games, Jones being the midfielder doing the most work, even not just in the attacking phase. This game, he was competing really well off the ball. He was winning his fair share of tackle, tracking back. He wasn't given that role where he's allowed to stay slightly as just an attacking midfielder. He was actually playing the normal Liverpool system with three midfielders working hard, and he done it well. So, you have to question whether Klopp has a plan B at the moment, because the plan A has been so good, he's struggling to have a solution to the current problems.
I mean,
first teamers not being available.
Look into this, the plan A they have, the system, and kind of look into the Everton lineup and how they really kind of nullified them. I mean, if you could go over that, really.
Just gonna go over the setups of both teams, really. As you can see, Everton have a 3-5-1-1. In the first half, it was 3-5-1-1, and Liverpool with the traditional 4-3-3, with Mane very narrow. I mean, Salah was out wide this game, but Mane continues to play very, very narrow. And as you can see, I mean, the game was set up in this way where, Digne and Coleman, whenever Everton had the ball, and even when they didn't, they were happy to leave this risk, which was a surprise. They were happy to leave this risk a lot of the time. The Digne and Coleman even committed to pressing in that first half. The biggest thing was the lack of adjustments in the second half. I really think the game, especially in the second half, proved Ancelotti's tactical acumen. He tactically outclassed Klopp in this game because So in the second half, what happened was Liverpool recognized that this was the problem. So they did make an adjustment, and the adjustment was let's pin Digne and Coleman back by being extra aggressive enough in our play. So they pushed up both Arnold and Robertson, and more so, I would say, Trent. So what happens when the second half started? All the chances was coming from the combination of Salah and Trent. And what happened was Mane switched to the central zone, and Firmino went to the left-hand side. So what happened? These three started to effectively do fast combination play, and all the chances were coming around this area. If you look at the clearance from Holgate, there was a last-hit clearance from Keane, but the setup of the play started here, and then Mane was clean too. There's a shot from Salah. All of those because of this, the three combination here. And it was working because it pinned back Digne and Coleman. But what Ancelotti done very well and was really clever. Gomez was flagging he's very tired, so he wouldn't be able. So what Ancelotti done very well was with his substitutions he turned it into 4-4-2 straight away. He recognized that there's an overload on that right hand side now because the fullbacks are pushing up. So he went to 4-4-2. Pushed Coleman into the right wing, and suddenly what happened was Liverpool then had to think about the ball in behind Trent and also bringing on Calvert-Lewin just meant he could run into the channels and get involved more. So yeah, I mean tactically. And you can do that a lot when you're 1-0 up. You can kind of boss the tactics a lot because the other team is trying to chase the game, so they'll take risks, and then you can play off that risk. And the second goal on the counter was all because of the formation change and the adjustments that Ancelotti made to what Klopp had done, and that's how the goal comes. They win it back, and they have two options. Up top to attack the gaps. So definitely, I just think Klopp needs to work on his plan B. And it's a trend. Every time they concede, it seems like they just go more and more attacking. And the only way back into the game is to commit to over-attacking, especially with the fullbacks. Instead of let's settle down, let's get our momentum, our rhythm going again, let's win control of the game again. And that's why I felt against Leicester they conceded 3 quick goals, is because as soon as they concede, it's like they go into this panic of over-attacking.
Do you think that's down to the manager, or do you think that's down to the players?
I think that's down to winning the title last year. I mean, I think that's what worked last year. Was a lot of times when they conceded, they'd come really strong and bully teams. But again, like I said, personnel makes a big difference. And there's always an outball right now where the opposition attackers have more chance of winning the ball than the Liverpool defense. So it needs the tactic is something that clearly worked for 2 seasons. Liverpool were extremely consistent. So I don't think there's anything wrong with the tactics as such. It's just adjustment needs to be made because they don't have the same personnel and the quality to handle playing such high risk. And we're seeing it. The two centre backs are getting exposed and losing the individual battle every game. So definitely Klopp needs to find a system where he's protecting the centre back slightly more because the quality ain't as good.
Sadikul, how do you think? Where do you think Liverpool will finish up? Really, with how things are going, do you think they still finish second, or they still have the chance?
Liverpool, with the way things are going, and with the injury crisis just increasing, now Henderson's out. God forbid, next game someone is going to be out. I don't see us finishing outside the top four.
Okay.
So I don't see us finishing in the top four
You don't
because
okay. Wow.
because of what now Henderson's added. I don't know, the way we're continuing. It just looks like come in the future we're going to have a few more injuries because we're always playing the same consistent team as well. We're not, other teams are rotating. Liverpool aren't. You're always playing Salah, you're always playing Mane, you always play Firmino, Thiago, Ronaldo. These players are going to pick up injuries. Other teams have the luxury to rotate. We don't, because if you look at our bench, they're all young players from the academy or players who are inexperienced. Like, we're picking up too many knocks. So I see us getting a few more injuries, and that causing us not to finish outside the top four.
Are they? What do you think Everton can achieve this season, especially the way they're going?
Yeah, I mean, Everton are definitely pushing for that top four position, but I don't think they're good enough to achieve it. It's with the attack they have, and I think a team like Liverpool sets up perfectly for the way Everton like to play. They're not going to dominate the possession. They don't have midfielders that are going to keep the ball and play. They are very much a counter-attack set up to counter-attack. They balance and then they break fast, and that's how. So I think they're in the mix for the Europa League or the third European competition, and they're looking good for that because they're just a very solid team, solid manager. If they're not on their top four or top of their game in their tactics, they're not going to be still easy to open up and score against. So I think, I mean, they're progressing well. There's still a big gap, even though yesterday was a statement win and it might help with the mentality and the belief of the players. I think there is still a gap in the style of play and in the players to actually nick a top four spot.
Thank you, but kind of alluded to really Liverpool's struggles and struggling to score and how because of their new defensive line, they're struggling to defend. And all praises to kind of Ancelotti for the tactical switches he's done to kind of win the game. So thank you both. Everyone else, guys, we have 4 more videos coming up this weekend. We will have the West Ham versus Spurs, Aston Villa versus Leicester, Arsenal versus Man City, and the Man United Newcastle game coming up. So do keep an eye out. As always, like, share, subscribe. Thank you both for coming into the show. I'll see you soon.
Take care.